South Lebanon is known for its historical sites and Muslim heritage. Many prophets and noble individuals are known to have been buried here, drawing in thousands of visitors worldwide to the shrines, seeking intercession and closeness to Allah through the burial sites of these noble individuals. This documentary follows Sheikh Adam Awada as he gives us a tour around 3 shrines: Prophet Benjamin, Prophet Aaron, and Saadi. Lebanon represents amongst the 3 Abrahamic faiths a melting point of theology, faith, and history. In its lush soil rest up to 30 prophets who are admired and respected amongst all 3 faiths. Situated near Palestine and Syria, it represents one of the oldest civilizations in the world today. We are joined by Sheikh Adam Awada, who is an inspiring Hausa student, as he takes us around 3 noble sites.
My name is Adam Hassan Awada. From a young age, I had a knack, or I had an urge for the Hausawi path and the path of seeking knowledge. I was born in Sydney, Australia. I was raised in a semi-religious family, praying and fasting, but not so much as we know tashayyu' or tadayyun to be religious. I attended a public school education for the first 6 years. Then I moved to a Catholic school. So I did my high schooling in a Catholic school, majority of my high schooling in a Catholic school. My grandfather often tells me a story. He says when I was very young, 5 or 6 years old, he was coming to Lebanon during the time of the occupation, and he asked me, he said, Adam, what do you want me to bring you from Lebanon? I said to him, Jiddu, I want a toy Sayyid and a toy Sheikh. And I have many pictures as a young child, as a little boy, wearing something wrapped around my head and pretending to be a scholar sitting on a chair cross-legged and giving a lecture.
Sheikh Adam Awada, a lecturer and student of Hausa, was a resident in Australia who travelled to Lebanon to gain Islamic knowledge and pursue his path in Hausa studies. We asked him what sparked his interest in pursuing this path.
Living in the West is a challenge because al-qabid ala dinihi al-qabid ala al-jamr. Holding on to your religion, although the hadith is out of context, holding on to your religion is like holding on to a coal which is on fire. Living in the West is difficult because you have to sort of manage between religion and the laws of religion and the boundaries of religion and modern life. Even the smallest of issues, like having a beard, it was looked down upon. Alhamdulillah, now it's become something fashionable, but as I was growing up, it was something out of history to have a beard. So we were often at school, we were forced to, to trim our beards, and if you weren't come cleanly shaven to school, especially at a Catholic school, you were given a razor blade, one of those disposable razor blades, and sent to the toilets and said, you have to shave. So I was constantly struggling with that, with salat, with siyam, with fasting, with going on camps. I remember growing up when I was in a Catholic school called Kazmi Catholic College. We went on a camp. They took us on a tablighi camp, a camp where they preach sort of to, a spiritual camp. And it became time for Maghrib prayers when we arrived, so I took out the sajjada, the prayer mat, my prayer mat, found the direction of the Qibla, and I stood to pray. I finished my Maghrib prayers finding about 10 teachers and students just standing watching me baffled. What are you doing? This guy's a terrorist. That's a story, for example. Another one is as I mentioned, shaking hands. You have to come up with things, and especially what they call in the West a white lie, which is no such thing as a white lie, but you have to taqiyya, tawriya, I don't know what you want to call it. My hands are dirty. Or I remember once some non-Muslims came over, and my mother was in the kitchen preparing lunch. They were over for lunch. So as soon as they walked in, there was about 4 girls and the mother, and I knew they were going to shake my hands. So I dipped my hands into the bowl of salad, just to toss the salad through. So I had grease all over my hands, so they couldn't shake my hands. To a certain extent there was bullying. I was called Muhammad. I wasn't called Adam because Adam was too Christian for them, so they wanted to put me down in another way, which of course the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa is the greatest of blessings, and it would be my pride and joy to be called Muhammad. Yes, we were bullied. I remember on several occasions, especially 9/11, just after 9/11, there was a series of terrorist attacks. The 2006 war, for example. I remember the war broke out when we were on our 2-week break, which we called the semester break. And coming back to school was an issue because I knew everyone was going to give it to me. Bullied, yes. You can't eat this, you can't eat that. Oh, you can't listen to music. Let's all clap because he can't listen to music. Let's play touch the Muslim. Or touch my face. It's not mahram. You're not allowed. Yes, the community, the Shia community in Australia is large, but they don't. It's not organised. It's not made there. It's happened by accident that there are so many Shia. For example, there was no Shia high schools, or if there was, it would have been something basic still to begin with. There was nothing to fall back upon. There was nothing to be helped, or there was no one to help you. For example, facing these things because everyone was going through the same thing. Whether it be in a public school or in a Catholic school or in a private college or what have you, everyone was going through this. So you weren't the only person being picked on. Everyone else was there to help you. It was a backlash that was happening to everyone. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, looking back at what I was going through and what every young Muslim would be going through or was going through at the time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the only help and only guide. Yes. There were a few people, a few older relatives, there was a sheikh, I remember, in Sydney. He's still, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah prolong his life. His name was Sheikh Mansour Liqai. He was one of maybe the only or the few English-speaking sheikhs in Sydney at the time where I could go to for help, I could go to for advice. On many occasions I would go and visit. And also, there was a counselling system set up in my Catholic school by the nuns and the sisters that were there. And that would also be a great help because, remember, a religious Christian is closer to us than a non-religious Muslim, for example, in terms of connecting and finding, in terms of connecting or in terms of finding common ground with them.
The Qur'an, in its narrative of Joseph, refers to Benjamin as the righteous son of Jacob. We visit the shrine of Prophet Benjamin, the biological brother of Prophet Joseph.
Upon entering the shrine, something unusual catches your eye. You see a very old tree. This is called butul. It is a local tree, hardwood, slow growing. Now the villagers say that this tree dates back to the time of Binyamin. They say he planted it next to his house and he lived here, somewhere in this area. Now I don't accept, nor do I deny this narration. But we do know that it is mustahab to plant trees. And all of our prophets planted trees and the awliya planted trees. So to say that Binyamin alayhi salam planted a tree outside his house which is still alive is not very far-fetched.
Benjamin's shrine is situated in South Lebanon, in a village nested on top of the mountain overlooking the border of Palestine and the rest of Lebanon. So who is Prophet Benjamin, and what lessons can be learnt from him?
From Binyamin ibn Yaqub, Benjamin the son of Jacob, many lessons can be learnt and derived. One of which is the way to deal with fellow siblings and with the general population. If you are chosen, if you are special, if you have a characteristic which is not available in anybody else, it is normal, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Holy Qur'an, for there to be hasad, for there to be jealousy from others. Now we learn from Binyamin how to deal with this jealousy and deal with this hasad, and inshallah, at the end of the path, we come out with a good result. Binyamin, as Yusuf alayhi salam, suffered a large amount of hasad and jealousy from his brothers, from his siblings. But he remained with them a lovely brother, showing them compassion and showing them mercy. Mawadda wa rahmah, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Holy Qur'an. So in the end of the road, at the end of the path, Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, whilst was a young child, saw a dream. He saw a dream, he says, Ya abati inni ra'aytu ahada ashara kawkaban wa والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين. He said, I saw 11 planets, والشمس والقمر, and the sun and the moon, رأيتهم لي ساجدين. I saw them prostrating towards me. Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam knew straight away that Yusuf would be a prophet, would be the next prophet after him, and therefore began to show him more affection and more emotion and pay more attention to Yusuf and treat Yusuf in a way that would bring up a prophet. Yusuf's brothers, upon seeing this, became very jealous, so they wanted to get rid of Yusuf in any way possible. They took Yusuf out with them one day with the sheep into the fields, and they threw Yusuf into a well. Yusuf fell into this well but did not die, as his brothers had wished. So they sold him to a caravan which was walking past. They sold him into slavery. And Yusuf then went from that caravan as being a slave with that caravan, up and up and up and up until he reached the palace of Pharaoh in Egypt. He was a slave in the palace of Pharaoh. He became friends with Pharaoh's son, and then became Pharaoh's right-hand man in turn, becoming a very powerful man in Egypt. Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam knew Yusuf was not dead, but all this emotion, this outpour of emotion, went to his brother Benjamin. Nabiullah Benjamin is also named in Haybib, as this village is called, Haybib in South Lebanon. Haybib comes from the word Habib, which literally means loved one, showing the amount of love, or pointing out the amount of love that Yaqub had to Benjamin.
Prophet Benjamin's shrine is without a doubt a pristine location, drawing in thousands of visitors and pilgrims.
The people of the village, the people of South Lebanon, the people of this area, consider coming to this maqam as a pilgrimage. They come here to pay donations. They come here to slaughter animals and sacrifices. They come here to pray, to supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to read the Holy Qur'an. You often see the women of this area walk barefoot to the maqam, no matter the distance. They walk barefoot and then come and ask for their hawa'ij. They come to supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People who can't have children, they say go to Haybib. If you are ill, people of the area say Haybib. So coming to this maqam and asking for a haja, you don't ask twice.
With the many miracles and answered prayers, the shrine continues to attract worldwide attention.
Now, if you ask the local people about the significance of this shrine, the list will go on for hours. They often mention karamat and miracles that happened in this maqam. I'll mention one. They say during the Israeli period of occupation of South Lebanon, there was a soldier of the resistance who had come to seek refuge in the maqam after being pursued by the Israeli soldiers. They say the soldier came in, he took off his weapons, he prayed, and then he sat down in a corner and he fell asleep. He was that tired. They say he saw in his dream a man stand up and say, "You are safe, sleep." And then he looked around and then slowly woke this soldier up and said, "Wake up and leave before it's too late." Afterwards, they said that this man was Benjamin himself in the dream, who had safeguarded this soldier until daybreak. Often you see, as we mentioned earlier, women with sick children. If a child is born with an illness, they bring him to the maqam and they slaughter a sheep and they cut his hair. That is a tradition that the Lebanese hold dear and near. They shave the child's hair and they slaughter a sheep and then they bring him into the maqam. And they call this boy Manzur Lebanyamin.
With the history of Lebanon and the 2006 war, many religious historical sites and shrines were damaged. So how did this affect Prophet Benjamin's shrine?
This maqam is not in its original state. This maqam in sections is the original maqam, and in others it's not. After the shelling of the 2006 war, this maqam was partially destroyed. Then Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, the Islamic Republic of Iran rebuilt this maqam. Now they rebuilt it in the same style it was beforehand. The traditional stone blocks with the yellow sort of cement, and it has two golden domes, one on the minaret and one on the roof. These are also presents from the Islamic Republic of Iran.
With the interest in Islamic knowledge and education from such a young age, and the difficulties and challenges Sheikh Adam experienced in Australia, we wonder what was the turning point and how he took the steps into Hawza studies and the path to becoming a Sheikh.
Growing up, I was, as I still am today, I had a soft spot for Latmiyat. So I used to listen to a lot of Latmiyat, and I have a very good memory, so I'd memorize. So I started to recite Latmiyat on any occasions that I would get. I remember one of my first was after Sayyid Mahdi al-Mudarrisi had a lecture. It was on the night of the 10th of Muharram, and I got up and I recited Latmiyat. So it probably was terrible, but I mean, and that happened on several occasions, and that was my starting point. That was my turning point, if I may, towards this entire world, this massive. They call it an enclave. It's not an enclave. The world of tashayyu', the world of religiousness, the world of being a Muslim. That was then, yes. Even during, I remember my Catholic education and what have you. I'd be sitting in class, and I'd have, back then there was the iPod before the iPad came out, and the iPhone. And I'd have my iPod in my ears with Latmiyat just to cover the music in gym and what have you. So yes, if a person makes it his goal in the West to live a life which does not collide with the laws of Islam and the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, it's possible. The first book I remember I read was a book called The Aftermath of Ashura, written by he's not a scholar, I think he's a religious man, or just a man who's faithful in Sydney in English. I read that in class while I was in, I think he's 6 or 5. Then I moved on to reading more important things and more things which I found interesting at the time. Historical fiqh. I remember I read the first Risala Amaliya, also in class in a Catholic school. It was Zubdat al-Ahkam, I remember. After that I read Ajubat al-Istifta'at. And then I started to read more and more, and I started wanting this path more and more. I remember, this is earlier, much earlier, maybe I was 10 years old at the time. I met a sheikh and became up close and personal for the first time. The sheikh still lives in Sydney now. I said to him, Sheikhna, if I want to be a sheikh, how do I go about that? And he said, you go to something called the Hawza, where you study and then you become a sheikh. So I asked him, Sheikh, can I get married if I become a sheikh? I just had the thought that a sheikh would be something like a priest, but it turned out, alhamdulillah, different. So I started to read, I started to research, I started to learn. And there was something later on in time came was something called Hawza, something that runs from Sydney, which, as I mentioned, Sheikh Mansour, may Allah prolong his life, had set up, and you buy them on, it was a hard drive, it was an external hard drive full of Hawzawi lessons in English. So I bought that and I started to listen through that and write through that. And I mentioned it several times to my parents, guys, I want to go to Hawza. And they said, no, you're just going through a phase, wake up, you'll snap out of it soon. First time, second time, every couple of years I'd mention it. And it came to a time where I alhamdulillah, I finished my HSC, and what you call the end of high school, and I graduated from high school and I went to university. I was sciences, got accepted in my Bachelor of Sciences, and I'm hoping to go forth and become a pharmacist, as my parents had wanted. From the first day at university, I don't mean this in any way to put down university students, I didn't want to do what I was doing. So, being myself, back then it was an iPhone, it just came out, so I would put my iPhone, I'd go into the lecture theatre, put my earphones in, my iPhone on a tafsir lecture. I actually finished, Sayyid Sabah Shubbar had a series on fiqh, which I actually finished the whole thing during my university lecturing. I was there for a few months. And I just didn't want to do what I was doing, so I had a teacher who would come and help me with physics and mathematics. His name is Hajj Ibrahim Abdullah. He still teaches. He's a private tutor in Sydney. So Hajj Ibrahim came one afternoon, and I was just sitting there, just over it. And I said to him, Hajj, I don't want to do it. He said, I know. He says, Hajj Adam, I was a Hajj back then. Hajj Adam, if you don't pursue what you want to do in life, you'll never get anywhere. You're going to fail in university, and you're going to fail to become, inshallah, I do become a scholar, fail to become, now I'm a clergyman, inshallah, I become a scholar, fail to become a scholar. The next morning, I went to university, and we had a new teacher who was a tutor in university, because you have the lecture, the actual lecture, and then you have a tutorial on the actual lecture afterwards. So it was a tutor. And he said, okay, as happy as the Australians generally are, hi guys, I want to get to know you guys. So one by one, stand up, say your name, and tell me a bit about yourself and what you want to do in the future. So John and Mike and Philip and Sarah and Stephanie stood up, and it was my turn. So I stood up and I said, my name is Adam, and I want to be a priest. He wouldn't know what a sheikh was, so I said I'd want to be a priest. So he looked and he smiled, and he looked from over his glasses, and he smiled at me and says, wait behind after class, I want to speak to you. Finished the class, everybody left. I sat next to the man, and he asked me, you're a Muslim, right? You can tell by the beard. And so I said, yeah. He said, what kind of Muslim are you? I said to him, I'm a Shia. He says, so pursue what you want to do it. And I said to him, it's not as easy as that. When you have a family with expectations, and they want you to be a doctor, and you want to be a sheikh, and especially in the Lebanese eyes, that a sheikh is jobless, it does nothing, there's no future, there's no for a sheikh. So I explained it to him in detail. He said to me, listen, he goes, there are very little Islamic lecturers in English, and even smaller the amount of Shia Islamic lecturers in universities teaching. Do it and you'll succeed. I said to him, my father won't agree. He said, give me your father's number, I'll call him. So I said, no, there's no need for that. I went home, and Hajj Ibrahim came again the next, that afternoon for my lesson. And I told him, blah, 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 happened at university. He said to me, okay, call your father to come home. My father was at work. He came, and I said to him, listen, I want to go to Hawza. Something had happened twice when I was at school. In my primary education, which was from kindergarten to year 3, I think it was, I finished year 3, and I remember you used to get a school report which would say your end of year grades. So my teacher said in the bottom, I think my mother still has it at home, he said in the bottom, tell your son, or make sure Adam remembers me when he becomes either a very well-known priest or a very well-known politician, because of his tongue. Because I had a very sharp tongue. Yet again, then in year 9 or year 10, we had parent-teacher interviews. So I had my Christian teacher who would teach me Christian studies or Bible studies. It was time for him to meet my father. So as soon as my father sat down and I sat down, of course, being a parent-teacher interview, the child is always gobsmacked. He pulled out a guitar, he started to sing a song, saying, you can make a difference. He wrote the song for me and saying, you can make a difference, going away his guitar, I can make a difference in the world or something. So my father said, are you normal? As you say in Iraq, he says, no, I wrote this song for your son, because your son, being a Muslim who has no interest whatsoever in our religion, comes first in Bible studies and Christian studies, beats all the Christians, and then he tells me he doesn't believe in any of what we preach and what we teach. And he stays back to argue with me and debate points. And that's what I used to do. I used to go home and prepare and then come and argue the poor guy. And haram, many times he was left without answers to my questions. And then he came to the point where he said, you know what, you guys are probably right, but hey, Jesus died for our sins, so I guess I'm going to heaven anyway. To me, he said to him, your son's either going to be a politician or a man of religion or a clergyman, and either path he takes, he'll be successful. And then my dad said, no, my son's going to be a doctor, or my son's going to be a pharmacist, or my son's going to be an engineer. And then the teacher, having seen so many of my likes, maybe, or so many students, smiled and said, no, you're wrong, and wait and see, and remind me. Come to me and remind me, come visit me and remind me. And that's what happened, yeah. I told my parents, I think it was an afternoon, I sat them down, and that man that I mentioned earlier, my teacher, was sitting, my tutor, and he says to them, you know, Adam has something to say. And they knew. I said, no, I want to get a Hamza. The immediate reaction was, okay, you want to be a failure in life? Go and fail. They were shocked. To begin with, they thought, you know, it's just a few days and I'll get over it. I made my preparations. I came to Lebanon, of course, because Qom and Najaf were out of bounds, because they had agreed for Hawza ala madad, as we say in Arabic, agreed to Hawza forcefully, but they had put a bit of guidelines or red lines. They agreed for me to come to Hawza. So they even thought, even my first 6 months, my father, I found out later, had told my uncles and the rest of my family, he's going for a long holiday, a few months' time, and he'll get fed up and he'll come back. It was hard. I can't explain how hard it was, especially coming to a country where you basically know nobody. You can barely speak the language because the Lebanese, their accent and the way they speak, for a long time I was speaking like an Armenian, where I put, you know, use the wrong words in the wrong sentences and everyone just burst out laughing. Coming to a country you know nobody, you know nothing of the Hawzat, you know, and just coming, setting up camp, and then setting out in search of a Hawza. First of all, you have no family, which is you don't have no backbone. You have no warm house to come home to with a warm meal and your clothes, you know, ironed and no, it was none of that. It was you have to come home and you have to clean and you have to cook and you have to look after yourself and you have no car. And living in the south of Lebanon, you may know now, distances is a bit of an issue.
We visit the shrine of Prophet Aaron, the brother of Prophet Moses, situated in the South Lebanese village of Khartoum. Engraved upon his tomb is the Quranic verse, "And appoint me a helper from my family, Aaron, my brother." The astonishing shrine is made of ancient stone and is situated meters underground.
What's really amazing about this tomb is that we're actually about 3 meters underground, solid stone. It shows to what extent the people of South Lebanon went in digging and becoming close and burying their dead around this holy prophet. Now this was actually all dug out by hand. As you can see, the marks of the equipment used to dig out these trenches and build these carvings, it probably took months and months. And this is about maybe 3,000 years old, if not more, since the death of Prophet Harun alayhi salam. The way the people built this shrine, digging it out of solid stone by hand, shows that they wanted to preserve this shrine for years to come. As it has been preserved for thousands of years before us, it may still be preserved for thousands of years after. Now, as we can see, there are 11 carvings or dugouts around the grave of Nabiullah Harun alayhi salam. Now, as the caretakers of the maqam have told us, that these carvings or these dugouts date back to the pre-Islamic era, before Islam came to South Lebanon.
So who is Prophet Aaron and how did he assist Prophet Moses with his divine mission?
Nabiullah Harun alayhi salam is the brother of Nabiullah Musa. Musa ibn Imran, as we know, was sent to the people of Bani Israel, to the people of Egypt. Nabiullah Harun was sent with his brother Musa after the quest of his brother Musa. He says, as is engraved on the holy shrine, وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِّنْ أَهْلِي هَارُونَ أَخِي, and send from among my people a right hand, a wazir, a help, Harun, my brother. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Qur'an says, وَهَبْنَا لَهُ مِنْ رَحْمَتِنَا أَخَاهُ هَارُونَ نَبِيًّا, and we have sent with him from our mercy his brother Harun as a prophet. Now why does the Prophet Musa alayhi salam ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send with him a brother, to send with him a help? As we all know, and as the Qur'an states on numerous occasions, Nabi Musa alayhi salam was not well spoken. His tongue, as we say, was heavy in Arabic. He had a heavy tongue. So he sent Harun with him. He asked for Harun to be with him because Harun, as we all know, was much more accepted amongst the people of Israel and much more well spoken. As we also may have heard the narration from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi Rasulullah Muhammad, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, to Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, he says, Ya Ali, anta minni bimanzilati Harun min Musa, illa annahu la nabiyya ba'd. Ya Ali, you are to me as Aaron was to Moses, Harun was to Musa, except there is no prophet after me. Now, what was Harun to Musa? Why does Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi compare himself and Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam to Harun and Musa? Harun was Musa's successor and Musa's right-hand man. If Musa would receive revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he would immediately relay this to his brother Harun, and Harun would go and relate this to the people of Bani Israel. If Musa alayhi salam would leave the people of Bani Israel for any reason, he would leave Harun alayhi salam as his successor amongst his people, as did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, in the revelation and in the succession. Fir'aun would practice the utmost of violence and the utmost of tyranny and the utmost of oppression towards the people of Israel. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Nabiullah Musa and Nabiullah Harun alayhi salam to save the people of Israel, to save the Jewish population of Egypt. So to begin, Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam went to Fir'aun on several occasions, and they warned him that what you are doing is wrong, and that there is a God, and that you must fear God. As we all know, Fir'aun considered himself to be God. حشر فنادى, as the Qur'an says, وقال أنا ربكم الأعلى, I am your greatest God, I am your God. So Fir'aun, considering himself God, considered it was his right to do what he pleased with the people of Israel, whether it be killing, whether it be enslaving, whether it be humiliation, whether it be what have you. Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam, after several attempts with Fir'aun, received word from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you must leave Egypt with your people. Of course, after the 7 plagues that took place in Egypt, Musa alayhi salam and Harun led the people of the children of Bani Israel and the people of Egypt away from Fir'aun. Upon reaching the Red Sea, as you may know, Musa alayhi salam hit the sea with his stick, hit the sea with his staff, splitting the sea into 2. Now that in itself is a miracle. So after Nabiullah Musa alayhi salam rescued the children of Israel, after they crossed the sea, Nabiullah Musa alayhi salam told his people that he'd be leaving for 30 days. 30 days to receive the divine commandments from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Upon leaving, Musa alayhi salam left his brother Harun alayhi salam as a wasi, as a successor to him amongst his people. Just as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, going back to the hadith, Ya Ali, anta minni bimanzilati Harun min Musa, illa annahu la nabiyya ba'di. There's the comparison between the two. So Musa alayhi salam left his people for 30 days. These 30 turned into 40. Musa was late. The children of Israel became restless. Harun alayhi salam was overpowered by the children of Israel. Along came a man called As-Samiri, and he began to tell the children of Israel, the people of Egypt, that we must create a God we can touch, we can see, we can feel. And he created the calf, as we know from the ayat of the Holy Qur'an. As-Samiri created this calf while Musa was away and Harun was his successor. Upon the return of Musa alayhi salam, he found the children of Israel worshipping the calf, and his brother Harun alayhi salam cornered and overpowered by the children of Israel. He asked him, Ya Harun, what is the situation? Why are they worshipping the calf? Harun alayhi salam says, they were about to kill me, my brother. their urge and their need to see and feel a God, the children of Israel, pushed them to the extent that they were about to kill their own prophet and the wasi of their own prophet, the successor of their own prophet, after he had just saved them from the tyranny of Pharaoh.
There are many narrations regarding the burial site of Prophet Aaron. However, according to the people of South Lebanon and the people of the village of Khartoum, there is no doubt that this is the exact location of Prophet Aaron's burial site. So how is this shrine being used, and what significance does it have in the lives of the locals?
The people of Khartoum, the people of this South Lebanese village, would often use this maqam and this shrine of Nabiullah Harun alayhi salam to remember the tragedies of Karbala. As the caretaker of the maqam narrated to us, that this maqam was used especially on the times of Arba'een, on the times of Ashrat Muharram, the 15th of Sha'ban. The villagers and the locals would come and pitch tents around this maqam, and they would slaughter sheep and sacrifices and gather to mourn the tragedies of Karbala. The maqam is made up of several sections. Number one, we have the masjid or the musalla, where the visitors of this maqam come and pray and come and supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and read the Holy Qur'an. Number two, we have a graveyard surrounding this maqam. The people of this area and the surrounding villages all bury their dead around the grave of Prophet Harun alayhi salam. Number three, there is a well in the valley just behind us over there. The well in itself and the water, they say, is waqf for Nabi Allah Harun alayhi salam. Inside that well, there are fish. They say that Prophet Harun alayhi salam brought those fish, put them in the well. That's as far as they say, and the fish remain till today. This outside area around the maqam and the several, which we call in Arabic bahat, these several tiled areas outside were made for the zuwar, for the visitors of this maqam who come from long distances to stop and rest. Sometimes they would lay here, sometimes they would even stay the night. Number four, there is a room which faces the back of this maqam. The room is a rundown hawza, where the Qur'an was taught, where fiqh was taught, where Islam was taught. Today this room is being rebuilt and refurbished and turned into a library. This library, which is to serve the zawar of this maqam, with books, with a place to learn, with a place to be taught, and inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the donations that come to this maqam, the nuzurat that come to this maqam, are what pay to refurbish it and keep it in the state it's in.
Arriving in Lebanon, Sheikh Adam was on his way to pursue a path in Hawza studies and enrolled in a local Hawza. But what challenges and obstacles did Sheikh Adam face?
Nobody helped me enough to say that they helped me. It was always, and especially my surroundings in Lebanon when I first came had nothing to do with Hawzat or the religious seminaries, nothing to do with it. So it was sort of trial and error. I saw a few Hawzat to begin with, and I had something totally against sleeping in the Hawza and staying in the Hawza. I like to come home and take my comfort, so I looked for something local. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I found the local Hawzat were better than the ones further away, and I enrolled in Hawza. One of the issues faced, especially by Westerners coming to the Middle East, be it Iran, be it Iraq, be it Lebanon, Syria. Syria had a thriving Hawza before the civil war that broke out there in Syria. One of the issues we commonly face is people don't see, or the general population doesn't view us as mustad'afeen, as people who need help setting up, who need help finding. They look at us as a bag with a dollar sign on it. So everyone wants a share, wants a take, wants a cut. It makes things hard. Yes, you come home and cry sometimes at night. But alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, eventually one reaches his goal. I enrolled in Hawza, as many of the Hawzawi students say. On the first day I thought I was going to be surrounded by imams and prophets and angels, and to my surprise it was nothing like that. Hawza's hard, give or take, harder than university. learning a language you knew nothing about. The Arabic language that you speak and you read is nothing compared to the qawa'id and the nahw and the sarf that you come to learn here. Enrolling in Hawza is an issue because it's sort of like an interrogation. The way I faced it was an interrogation. You know, why did you come to study Hawza? Every answer is to serve, my people and serve my imam. What is your aim out of studying Hawza? Etc., etc. So I sort of just, the Hawza I'm in now, I walked into the office and I sat down with the principal for the first time, and he said to me, "Akh Adam, ما هو طموحكم من دراسة الحوزة أو من الدراسة الحوزوية؟ يعني what do you aim to get out of Hawza? What do you aim to get out of Hawza? Why have you come to study Hawza? Why have you traveled across the seas to come and study Hawza?" So I looked at him, I said, "Listen, I'm not going to come and be your average so I can please my imam, I'm coming to study Hawza because I find it to be the right thing. And there's no way many people before you tried to put me off, you're not going to put me off." So he smiled and said, "Ahlan wa sahlan." And I enrolled in Hawza and I began to study. And at first, Hawza is a whole different ballgame to secular education. It's a whole different ballgame. Yani, you may take sometimes in a Hawza lesson you learn or you take from the textbook or you read, or the lesson is based on 2 or 3 sentences. I came from a university thinking, take 3 chapters a day, and it's nothing like that. You take it slow, you take it steady, and you and there's honestly a lot to fathom, a lot to get your head around, because you have so many different subjects you've never heard anything about, never studied anything about, and you start them all at once. So it takes you a few months to get your head around things. Be it fiqh, the way you study in Hawza is nothing compared to the way you read it before going to bed in a risala amaliya at home. It's got nothing to do with that. Be it nahu, be it mantiq, a'udhu billah, be it philosophy, be it aqidah. I got an offer after going to ziyarah for the first time, ziyarah Sayyid Shuhada Imam Hussein alayhi salam. During Arba'een, I met a few Canadians and they wanted an English-speaking sheikh. I was still young and fiery, and I said, "Yeah, of course, I'll do it." So they said to me, "Okay, Fatimiyya, after Arba'een, you're booked Canada." I said, "Ya Allah." So I came back and started to prepare for Canada. Now, upon leaving, or just before leaving, one of my teachers, who was actually the principal of the Hawza, or the principal of the head office, called me into his office. And he was sitting down wrapping a turban. And he wrapped it and said, "This is yours. You wear it for tabligh. As the ulama before you have done, as it's normal." It was a bit of a shock. Everyone was shocked. I was shocked. Alhamdulillah, Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam says, if you fear something, if you fear something, fall into it. So I was scared. I remember, I think I've told you the story. I remember I began my first lecture in Canada, and my turban was sitting there just above my hairline. 5 minutes into the lecture, I was sweating so much and I was so scared it was about to fall off the back of my head. So that's one. And alhamdulillah, the second night was better, the third night was even better, and went from there.
We visit the shrine of Sari in the South Lebanese village of Adloun. So who was Sari and what role did he have?
We are in the maqam of Nabiullah Sari alayhi salam. Sari, according to some, is an Arabic word for warrior, or mujahid, or muharib, fighter, or a struggler against evil and oppression. Others beg to differ. They say that Sari is an Arabic word, a verb from Sara or Sarah, which means traveller or travelled. But the owner of this grave, the man buried here, was a traveller. He would travel throughout this region, throughout Lebanon, throughout the Middle East, preaching the religion of Islam, teaching the Qur'an. According to some, he was a prophet, a Nabi. According to others, he was a wasi, a successor of a prophet. According to others, he was a wali, a righteous man. And according to a fourth set of people, or a fourth narration, he was a warrior, or a commander of an army. Now this maqam is on a mountaintop, facing the sea. The people of Adlun and the people of South Lebanon consider this maqam and consider this man, this wasi, or this wali, or this nabi, to be a man of karamat, a man of miracles. They regularly come here with nadhurat, they pay charity, they slaughter sheep. If they can't have, for example, children, they come and the husband and the wife, they come to this maqam and they seek intercession to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, by the right of the owner of this grave, of the man buried here. Whatever this man was, we know for a fact he was a righteous man. A man who inspired the locals in this area. A man people come from all corners of Lebanon to visit, to pay charity, to seek refuge, to pray, to read the Qur'an, to supplicate. This man inspired many and has and will remain to inspire many.
With the different narrations and beliefs mentioned, we now know he was a righteous man in whatever role he had. Therefore, he played a role in society to help people, and today his shrine has become a vocal point for many people around the world to be inspired to learn from and seek intercession. So how did Sari end up in South Lebanon, and what was his final fate?
Sari came to this land as a defender and as a warrior. He arrived here with the Islamic army to defend the shores of Lebanon, back then the shores of Islam. He led the prayers, and then he heard a call from the sky saying, Ya Sari, alayka bil jabha, according to the story, according to the locals, according to everybody. He heard a call from the sky saying, Ya Sari, alayka bil jabha. O Sari, it is time to defend. The Roman army approached from the sea, as we can see, to attack Lebanon. Sari and the Islamic army attacked from here, from the top. They attacked the Roman army and they fought until Sari was injured. Sari being injured, some say in the leg or in the knee, he crawled his way or made his way back up onto this mountain, and he lay here, bleeding until he died.
It is without a doubt that a scholar, lecturer or sheikh comes with great responsibility as they become the vocal point for others to learn from and get inspired by. We asked Sheikh Adam about this increased responsibility since becoming a sheikh.
Being a mu'ammam, being a talib ilm, being a rajul deen, as we call them in Arabic, being a turbaned man, yes, it comes with some sort of respect and privilege, but it comes with much more responsibility. The responsibility of being asked the question and being able to say, I don't know, if you don't know, and not answering from your head and becoming a second Abu Hanifa. Walking around in this dress code, living a life in this dress code, means to the majority, you represent Islam, you represent the Shaykh. Yani, any action or any wrong action you do, will be said that, you know, look at what the Shia do, look at what the Muslims do, look at what the Mashayikh, or look at what the scholars do, look at what the Hawzi does. Once there's a story of one of our scholars, one of his students, a Halim, who was a student of a Halim, says in one of his lectures, it is mustahab to walk into your bedroom, I think it was your bedroom or your kitchen, with your left foot. He came down off the minbar. All those present said, Mawlana, where did you get that from? You know, is there a hadith? He says, no. Ask my scholar, ask my teacher. So they accompanied him to his teacher's house. Ya Allah, salamu alaykum, alaykum salam. Mawlana, is it mustahab to walk into so-and-so room with your left foot? He said, I don't know, I've never heard anything of the like, never read a hadith. This is a big scholar. So the student says, Mawlana, I saw you do it. You walked in with your left foot. He He says, Habibi, if I do something, it doesn't mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm not a ma'soom. قولي وفعلي وتقريري حجة. My walking and my talking, my actions and my silence is proof and is a guide. And people look at you in that sense. If you raise your voice, they say, if the mashayikh are raising their voices, what have they left for the general population? I say to all my brothers, anyone that wants to study Hawza, anyone that has the ambitions to study Hawza, anyone who's in the Hawza now, from personal experience, I'm not being a philosopher and giving nadariyat, giving philosophical advice. Leave it easy, take it easy, slowly. Focus. As much as you focus on your study, focus on your ibadat. Focus on your worship. Because we have riwayat that say that if someone comes and studies and learns a mas'ala, learns something, and then commits a sin afterwards, he forgets it. He forgets the mas'ala he learned, he forgets the issue, or the topic he had studied. Try to focus on that. And not just on the outer shell. Because the first day I came home from Hawza, I remember looking for the thinnest mattress we had in the house, in my grandparents' house in South Lebanon, on the thinnest mattress. And because I remember I had seen a picture of Sheikh Bahjat sitting in the same position, so I thought that's what had to happen. No. Be yourself, take it personal, whatever makes you comfortable, just get what you have to do done. And know, it's not always the case as the Lebanese put it, that a sheikh is a failure. No, it's actually quite the opposite. You become a alam, you become a flag for the religion of Islam. You become a soldier, inshallah, for Imam al-Mahdi. It's not something you take lightly. Honestly, it's not something to take lightly. It comes with, as I mentioned, with massive responsibility. Hawza is not the easy route. It's not the easy path out of things. You know, I didn't like school, so I'd come to Hawza. Hawza is harder than school, number one. Number two, if you want to come and study for a few weeks and then leave and put a turban on and say I'm a sheikh now, that's it. That's an issue, because you realize after a few days of leaving the Hawza, we travel on tablighi trips, we travel on trips to lecture, and I myself, I travel to lecture and preach. After a few weeks of being away from Hawza, you feel that the amount of knowledge you have left is gone. You feel the storage compartment, which you have inside on the left-hand side, full of knowledge, is empty. After a few days of leaving Hawza, I see my teachers and their teachers, even the teachers that teach Bahth Kharij, which is the highest level of Hawzawi knowledge, even sit together and they have mubahatha, and they continue to teach each other. You can never stop, you never finish. The path of knowledge is never ending. And then the more you learn and learn, you realize more and more that I really don't know much. And you never have this takabbur and say, I am a talib ilm. Yes, it's a pride to be a talib ilm. The riwayat say that the angels spread their wings for the talib ilm to walk. But stay down to earth as much as I say this to myself before I say this to anybody else. Try to stay as down to earth as possible, because afat al-ulama hasad wa takabbur.
The authenticity of such sites have not been verified, and there are traditions that state that Prophet Aaron and Benjamin are buried elsewhere. However, what is indeed authentic is the respect and admiration that locals have for such places, giving them hope, a sense of community, and a focal point of worship. As for Sheikh Adam, the future is looking bright as he continues his path in Hawza studies and travelling around the globe spreading the pristine teachings of Islam and the Holy Household.